You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramah Shemesh Yisrael 5779 2018. This week's Parsha is Parshas Shemos. We have the beginning of the book of Exodus. The Jewish people are enslaved in Egypt to the Egyptians. Many years, 210 years, the Jewish people. It's time for them to be redeemed. God would like to send a redeemer to redeem them. His name is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, and it's time to send him, and Hashem appears to him in the burning bush. The bush is burning, but it's not consumed. And Moshe Rabbeinu covers his eyes. He doesn't want to look. He doesn't want to do something forbidden, which is to look at God, as it were, or to look at this amazing revelation, this godly revelation. I'd like to read to you from Rabbi Chaim Friedlander, and he quotes the Medrash. It says like this. The verse says in chapter 3, verse 6, Moshe covers his eyes, covers his face, because he doesn't want to look at something which is godly. Amr Chazal, our sages tell us, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha and Rabbi Hoshaya. We have machlekes between Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha and Rabbi Hoshaya. Echad mehen omer lo yafa asa Moshe kishe histir panav. One says that Moshe did something incorrect by covering his face. She'ilule lo histir panav. If he had not done so, Hashem would have revealed to Moses what's above and what's below, everything. He would have understood all the secrets of creation. He would have known the past and what was going to be in the future. In the end, Moses does indeed ask to see that which he turned away from here. As the verse says, in Exodus chapter 33, Harini nas kavaydecha. Moshe Rabbeinu says, show me your honor. He wanted to see. God said to Moses, when I wanted to show it to you, I wanted to show you my kol tuvi, all of my good. When I wanted to show you, you turned away. You closed you covered your face. Now I'm telling you, that you can't see me and live. When I wanted, you didn't want. When I requested, you didn't confirm the request. Yeshua the Sichlin says something amazing. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu did something which was incorrect, which was to turn away, according to this opinion, God did indeed show Moshe Rabbeinu all of these things that he turned away from. He showed him in the reward. There was a dual character of what happened here. There was a dual thing that went on. He turned away, which was in a certain sense incorrect, but there was something good about it. We're going to find out what that was. But the fact that he turned away also earned him a reward. In the merit of the fact that Moshe covered his face. V'diber Hashem al Moshe panim el panim. Corresponding to the fact that he covered his face, Hashem spoke to him face to face. U'bischar ki yarei. In the merit of the fact that he was afraid to look. V'yiru migeshes elav. People were afraid to look at him. U'bischar mehabit u'tmunas Hashem yabit. People were afraid to look at him when his face was shining after he spoke to God on Mount Sinai. He had to put on a mask. So that was in the merit of the fact that he didn't look. He was afraid to look. And in the merit of the fact that he was afraid to look, when was that he was afraid? When was that he was afraid to look? So he was able to see the vision of God. So Reb Chaim Friedlander asks the obvious question, why did Moshe Rabbeinu cover his face? So according to this opinion, it was not the right thing to do. And according to the second part of it, there was a schar, a reward for it. Why did he do it? The very fact that the Bryce is telling us that it was a time that Hashem wanted to shine his light upon Moshe. Hashem is coming and saying, I want to shine my light on you. And Moshe turns away. Why did he do that? Hashem wanted to reveal to him the secrets of creation. Why did he refuse? Furthermore, if our sages tell us that if our sages are critical of Moshe Rabbeinu, as it were, and say that it was incorrect what he did by hiding his face. So we need to understand, what does it mean that he received a reward for covering his face? The reward was, as we said, that God spoke to him face to face. They were afraid to come close to him. If it was incorrect what he did, why is he being rewarded for it? Okay, so we need to understand this idea. What is the idea? So there's a few things that he says in here. I'm not going to read everything inside. I'll just tell you quickly a little bit of what he says. He says that there's an idea, there's a concept of when we learn Torah. So there's different ways that we can receive the Torah. There's different ways that we can receive information. He quotes a story with the Gra, with the Haglein mi Vilna, the genius of Vilna, the Gra, where he had the opportunity to receive wisdom, to receive understandings through malachim, through angels. And yet Moshe, and yet the Gra, who was on a great level, not the level of Moshe, but on a great level, he said that he wasn't interested in receiving the information from these angels, but rather he wanted to receive the information directly from Hashem, as it were, through his own efforts, through his own work. Okay? And what is the idea here? What is the concept here? That there's a concept, he explains, of something being given for free. Something being given for free that's not earned. Moshe Rabbeinu, says Reb Chaim Friedlander, did not want to hear, did not want to see something that he had not yet earned, that he had not yet proven that he was worthy of. Hashem wanted to give him a free ride, so to speak, for him to be able to receive a vision and understanding for free, and Moshe didn't want to receive it for free. He wanted it to be earned. We find that there's such a concept in regards to we need to understand before I explain the concept, or where we see it elsewhere. We need to understand, what is the idea? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu not? If Hashem is offering him a free gift, why doesn't he want to receive it? What is the idea of receiving it and having earned it? What happens if a person has not earned it? What happens if a person receives it for free? Why is that not such a good idea? And the example that Reb Chaim Friedlander gives is of the Jewish people. Klal Yisrael received an amazing free gift. It was a revelation at Yam Suf, at the Sea of Reeds. As they went through the water killed the Egyptians, it saved them, the water was dry land for them. So our sages tell us that they had an amazing revelation at Sinai. They saw a greater, even the lowliest person saw a greater vision than Yechezkel ben Buzi. Ezekiel, he describes the Mesa Merkava, what it looks like in the throne room, as it were, of God. And everybody saw that. Everybody saw that at Yam Suf. And also at Mount Sinai, there was an amazing revelation for the Jewish people. And yet, what happens after that? Immediately after that, the Jewish people complain after Yam Suf. After Sinai, after Mount Sinai, 40 days later, they serve the golden calf. You see that when people receive a revelation for free, when they receive something that they have not yet earned, before it's the time, even though God is offering it to them, nevertheless, the result is that when a person hasn't earned it, that when there's no yira, we'll see what the idea of yira is, that when there's no fear of heaven, when there's not a proper respect, that's even more accurate to say, when there's not a proper respect for the thing that the person is receiving, when it just comes for free, so it loses its value. And not only does it lose its value, it can be completely lost, which is what happened with the Jewish people, almost with the golden calf. They lost their relationship with God. It took 120 days of Moshe Rabbeinu, or 80 days of Moshe Rabbeinu asking God to forgive them. So that's the idea. Moshe Rabbeinu did not want to receive for free. He didn't want to receive for free the revelation that Hashem wanted to give him. Okay? So, in a certain sense, he was correct. And yet, we see Chazal say that there was something wrong with what he did. Okay, so we need to understand that. Let's see. I'd like to read some of this inside because I want to hear the way that Reb Chaim Friedlander expresses this idea, which is very powerful. He says, Tam nosaf, madua histir Moshe panav, kifi shekosov, hatam vayistir Moshe panav. Another reason why, excuse me, why Moshe Rabbeinu covered his face, ki yarim yabitu l'elakim, he was afraid to look at God, was afraid to look at something godly. He did it out of love. A person who loves doesn't hate. I'm sorry, I just skipped a few lines. I'm sorry. All right, let's back up here. Let's read this again. This is how you read it. A person is obligated to serve God out of love, because a person who loves doesn't hate. Also, it's imperative to serve God out of yira, out of fear, out of respect. Because a person who does it out of respect serves God out of fear, so then they won't rebel. Okay, now think about it in terms of a relationship. A person has a relationship with somebody else, so there's an aspect of love. But if I love somebody so much, and I can consume them with my love, right? It's possible for me to not give them any space. There needs to be boundaries. I need to also respect the other person. Otherwise, I'm going to end up in trouble. Rabbi Yerucham explains that in every single circumstance, a person needs to use these two character traits: ava v'yira, love and fear. Because they complete each other. The love that a person has will help him not to hate. Corresponding to this, or on the other side of things, when a person does it, when a person does something because he feels forced to do something, he feels he has no choice, he's doing it out of fear. So it could bring a person to hatred. If a parent forces their child to do something, so even if it's the right thing for the child could end up kicking back. Love alone is also not enough. When a person does things out of a tremendous amount of love and closeness, which is a lack of respect, a lack of fear, it can also cause a person to rebel. A person can see the person we loves in a lower way, because I'm so close to. Let's say a child is very close to the parent, he doesn't have the proper respect for the parent. It's all love. There needs to be a balance. Which was true at Matan Torah. So when God gave the Torah to the Jews at Mount Sinai, so there were certain people, among them Nadav and Avihu, who they didn't have the proper respect. They should have been consumed. They should have been lost. They were eating and drinking. And yet, Hashem decided not to. But there was a certain zilzal, certain lack of respect of these great people at Mount Sinai, at the Revelation. They didn't respect it. They didn't earn it. They received it without earning it. Okay? He says that's the reason why Moshe covered his face. He held that he didn't have a high enough level of yiras shamayim, of fear of heaven. Therefore, he was afraid to receive the revelation of love that God wanted to show him. God wanted to show him very high revelations. He was afraid that he would come to what happened with Nadav and Avihu. They ended up coming into the Lifnai v'Lifnim, into the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Holy of Holies, with a fire which was a foreign fire, which caused their death. Right? So ultimately, when a person doesn't have a proper respect, for the relationship, so then it can lead to a loss of the relationship. In the case of Nadav and Avihu, it caused the loss of their life. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu was concerned about. So that's why he was covering his face, because he didn't want to come into the place of receiving it without having the proper respect for God. But now, what is the understanding of our Chazal who say that he made a mistake? He didn't do correctly. He should have been on a higher level, says Reb Chaim Friedlander. However, our sages tell us that which he covered his face was incorrect. Even though he was doing it because of his fear of heaven. What's the reason? He explains that in the end all, when we talk about a person receiving something from God, when a person receives goodness, a person receives whatever it is in the world. So it's coming from chesed, it's coming from God's kindness. It's not coming because he deserves it. It's true that in the level where he was standing, where he was up to, so his concern was correct. And that is why, in fact, he received reward for that. But from the other side of it, the other perspective, if he had been on a higher level, so he wouldn't have needed to cover his face. If he would have raised himself up to be on the level of what God expected of him, he could have received it and he could have earned it. If Hashem is showing him God's honor, so Hashem is saying to him, it's possible that you can be on this level to be able to receive this. So Chazal, our sages, when they say that there was something missing, that Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake in a certain sense, so they're saying that he could have risen up in the service of God. He could have just said in front of God, here I am. By obviously he was, as the Torah says about him, he was the Anav Mikol Adam, he was the most humble person that ever lived. But he could have subdued himself even more, even deeper, and understood that if Hashem wants to show it to him, so he must be able to receive that. And it wouldn't have been a zilzal, it wouldn't have been a show of disrespect. We find in regards to the angels that are nearby where God, so to speak, his throne of glory is, so from the sweat of the Chayas HaKadosh, of the holy angels, so the sweat comes down and it creates a river called Nar Dinur. What is the idea of their sweat? It's an indicator of their Yiras Shamayim, of their nervousness, of their respect, of their fear of God. That's what our sages say, that was the problem with Moshe. When I wanted to, you weren't interested. You could have, the Chazal are telling us that Hashem was saying to Moshe Rabbeinu that you could have raised up your level of service of God. And you would have been able to experience God according to your level. However, again, from the other side of it, since it came from the power of his, why did he cover his face? It was because he had a level of yira, of fear of God. In the end all, he was able to go up onto the mountain, onto Har Sinai, and be there for 40 days and 40 nights. And his body was so purified. He didn't need to eat or drink, but rather he received sustenance from the spirit, from his spiritual side, from his soul. And what did this come from? What did this idea come from? He had gone up to the level of a malach. Because of his great yira, because of his great respect for God. So he purified his body and his physicality. To the point where his face was shining. And what I want to bring out from this amazing piece from Reb Chaim Friedlander, what I want to bring out is a very important idea, which is a mistake that's prevalent today in Western society. And that is the idea of spirituality. Having spirituality just for its own sake, having spirituality not within the confines of a person's obligation toward God. It's like I want to feel good. I want the Torah to give me a good feeling. I want the mitzvahs to feel good. I want everything to be a spiritual experience. I want godliness in my life. I want to feel high from my spiritual experiences. And I'm not coming to knock and say that that's not possible, or that it's not true, or that it's not important. But what I want to show, what I want us to learn, what I'd like to take for myself as well out of this lesson of Moshe Rabbeinu, is that to have a spiritual experience, to have a spiritual high, to enjoy the mitzvahs, to enjoy it, that's very nice. And there needs to be an aspect of yira, there needs to be an aspect of respect, an aspect of, I'm not just going to enjoy the spiritual aspects of my relationship with God, I need to also do that which God expects of me. I need to earn it in a certain sense. There are certain hagdaras, there are certain rules and regulations. It's called the Torah. It's called all of the commandments of the Torah. The Torah tells us what a relationship with God looks like. And it's not just God giving to me. It's not just having spiritual experiences. It's not just having revelations or whatever it may be, having a good time with the Torah. But rather, there's also an aspect of respect. There's an aspect of doing that which God expects of us. There's an aspect of respecting the laws of the Torah. And just like in a relationship between a man and a woman, or between a parent and a child, so it's beautiful to have love, it's beautiful to have relationship, it's beautiful to come close to each other. However, there are times and places where it's inappropriate. There are times and places when there needs to be respect. It's wonderful for a parent to be friends with a child, to direct a child, to help that child, but the child also needs to have respect for the parents. The child also needs to know that there are hagdaras. That's why the Torah gives us an obligation to respect our parents. That's why a child is not supposed to sit in his parent's place. That's why a child's expected to stand up when a parent comes in, because the parent is someone who represents, in a certain sense, the godliness that's in a person's life. And just like between ourselves and God, we have to make sure that we have a proper level of respect for the Torah, for His commandments, for God Himself. So too, we need to have, we learn that in our relationships. We learn that with our relationships, whether it's a parent-child relationship, but also in a husband and wife relationship. It's also true that there's a time and a place for the relationship to be one of ahava, as we said, ein ha'oyev soineh, a person who loves doesn't hate, right? But if a person doesn't have the proper level of respect for the other person's boundaries, so then it can lead to a breakdown in that relationship. So that's the idea that I wanted to bring out here, and I want to bless you, and I ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us, that we should be able to understand this idea, to recognize that we need in our relationship with God and our relationships with others a perfect balance between ahava, love of God, love of others, and yira, proper respect for the boundaries and for a certain fear of doing that which is wrong and receiving from God without properly having earned it. So thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.